The market stank of smoke and sweat and iron. Shouts carried over the dust. Merchants barked their prices. Chains rattled with every shift of wings. Dragons were not supposed to look like this. Not proud creatures of fire and storm. Not bound with collars and ropes. Not pressed against bars like common livestock. Yet here they were, lined in cages, their scales dulled, their eyes hollowed by weeks of transport and humiliation. The auctioneer stood on his platform, his voice cutting like a whip. He thrived on scorn. His words drew laughter from the crowd. They leaned forward to see the next prize. He pointed at the dragon who crouched in the largest cage. She was magnificent even in disgrace. Her scales were a deep burnished bronze, streaked with soot and scars from travel. Her wings folded tightly against her sides, trembling not from fear, but from restraint. Her golden eyes burned with fury. "Infertile!" the auctioneer roared. "Useless for brood, useless for line. A broken treasure. Who will start the bidding for this barren beast?" The crowd jeered. Some spat toward her cage. Others clapped as if mocking her fall from grace. The dragon lifted her head higher. If her body betrayed exhaustion, her gaze did not. She refused to look away from a mob. Let them laugh. Let them call her worthless. She would not bend her neck to them. But pride was cold comfort when chains dug into her flesh. She remembered the mountain Ares where she had once flown, the songs of her kin, the thunder of wings echoing through endless skies. She remembered the moment the healers had spoken the verdict. No eggs, no clutch, no future. A dragon without fertility was a dragon without value. That decree had sealed her exile. Now she was here, a commodity, a spectacle. The auctioneer slammed his staff against the boards. Half price for this one. Half price for a mount that will still carry riders. Half price for a beast that still breathes fire. Come now. Who dares to take her home? Hands went up, not in earnest but in mockery. Farmers shouted bids they had no intention of paying. Merchants laughed as they whispered of turning her hide into armor. The price barely rose. She wanted to roar, to tear the bars apart, to remind them what she was. Yet she could not. Not here. Not bound. A man in a weathered coat stepped through the press of bodies. He moved without the swagger of the merchants or the drunken sway of the crowd. His walk was steady, his shoulders broad, his expression unreadable beneath the brim of his hat. He stopped at the cage and studied the dragon in silence. The auctioneer sneered. "Well now, a farmer among lords. Do you seek a pet for your fields? Stranger." The man did not answer. His eyes never left the dragon. 2 boys hurried after him, twins no older than 12. They clung close to each other, wide-eyed as they stared at the caged beast. One whispered something to his brother. The other shushed him quickly. The farmer, Jorenhale, finally spoke. His voice was calm, low, carrying none of the mockery that filled the square. "I'll bid." The crowd howled with laughter. Someone shouted, "What will you feed her? Farmer grain stalks and river water." Another spat. "She's no plow horse. She'll eat you whole." Joran ignored them. His hand lifted. "My bid stands." The auctioneer smirked. Bold words for a man with dirt on his boots. "Can you pay the price?" Joran met his gaze. "I can." The bidding climbed, not from desire but from cruelty. Merchants pushed the price higher only to force Joran to yield. Yet he did not falter. Each time the gavel hovered, his voice cut through the crowd with steady conviction. His sons shifted nervously, pulling at his sleeve, whispering for him to stop. Yet he pressed on. The dragon watched in confusion. Why would this man fight for her? She was no prize, no fertile queen, no legacy. Finally the jeers faltered. The merchants grew bored. The gavel struck. "Sold." Auctioneer bellowed. "Sold to the fool who wastes silver on a barren husk." Chains clattered as guards unfastened the locks. The dragon stepped from the cage, her head held high, though her heart thundered. She could crush this man with a single swipe. She could incinerate him before he drew another breath. Yet he looked at her as though she were not a monster, but a living soul. The crowd parted as they left the square. Whispers trailed after them. Some called Joran mad. Some called him doomed. Others laughed and bet on how long the dragon would stay before devouring him and his sons. Outside the market, the road stretched wide beneath a gray sky. The twins trailed behind their father, stealing glances at the bronze-scaled giant who walked in chains beside them. At last she broke her silence. Her voice was deep, resonant, carrying both pride and bitterness. "Why did you buy me?" Jorn did not look at her. He kept walking. "Because no one else would give you peace." She snorted, a curl of smoke rising from her nostrils. "You waste your coin. I cannot give you eggs. I cannot give you heirs. You will gain nothing." He glanced at her then, his eyes steady, his words plain. "I did not buy you for what you cannot give. I bought you for what you are, a being who deserves a place to stand." Her steps faltered. No merchant had spoken to her so. No dragon either. Her kin had cast her aside the moment her infertility was known. Yet this man, a simple farmer, spoke as though her worth was not bound to bloodlines. The twins hurried closer, their voices trembling with both fear and awe. The bolder one whispered, "She's huge, father." The other tugged his sleeve. "Will she hurt us?" Jorn stopped and turned to them. His voice softened. "She will not harm you." The dragon narrowed her eyes. "You speak with certainty." "I do," Jorn answered, "because I believe you would rather burn this world than harm children." For the first time since her exile, the dragon had no reply. They walked on in silence. The road dipped into valleys where fields spread wide, where the air smelled of soil and rain rather than smoke and iron. The dragon's chains bit less cruelly here. The laughter of the crowd seemed farther away. She did not trust this man. Not yet. But something stirred inside her, something she had not felt in many seasons. A sliver of curiosity, a question, perhaps even the faintest ember of hope. When the farmstead came into view at last, a modest house, weathered barns, land stretching beneath the endless sky, she found herself staring not with disdain, but with something she could not yet name. Jorn halted at the gate. He turned to her, his sons huddled close by his side. His face carried no triumph, no mockery, only resolve. "You are not a tool," he said, "not a broodmare, not a trophy. You are free here." The dragon let the words settle. Freedom. The concept stung like fire and soothed like balm all at once. She spread her wings slightly, feeling the air rush through them. Chains rattled, but the weight of them seemed lighter. For the first time since the verdict of infertility, she allowed herself to wonder if perhaps her story was not over. And as the sun slipped behind the hills, casting long shadows across the farmhouse, she realized this man had changed the course of her fate with nothing more than quiet defiance. Her journey with him had only just begun. The farmstead lay quiet beneath the rolling sky. Fences traced the land in crooked lines. A barn sagged against the wind. Fields stretched brown and waiting for the season's seed. It was no castle, no fortress, nothing a dragon would have ever looked upon with envy. Yet there was something steady in the sight, a home built by hands, a place worn by weather but stubborn in its survival. Jorn pushed open the gate. His sons rushed ahead. They scattered toward the porch where a dog barked once before retreating. The dragon paused at the boundary. She loomed above the posts. Her shadow stretched over the earth. The land smelled of soil and cut wood, not the stench of markets, not the bitter smoke of cities. Still she did not step forward. Chains wrapped her legs. Her pride resisted more than the iron did. "This is your domain," she rumbled. "What place have I in such a dwelling?" Jorn turned back, dust on his coat, calm in his bearing. "You have place enough, if you will take it." The twins stared at her from the porch. One bold, one timid. The bold one, Darren, cupped his hands around his mouth. "Come on, the barn is big enough for you." His brother Kalen tugged his sleeve, whispering a warning, but his eyes never left the dragon. Awe and fear mingled in them both. With a hiss through her teeth, she stepped inside the gate. The ground sank beneath her talons. Chickens scattered, feathers swirling. The barn groaned as she passed near. She curled her wings tight, unwilling to show uncertainty yet aware of every creak. The dog barked again. She bared her teeth. The animal whined and vanished onto the porch. The twins laughed nervously. Joran raised a hand. Enough. His tone held no command, only steadiness. She stilled, not because of fear, but because his voice carried no mockery, no jeer. She realized she obeyed out of curiosity. They led her to the barn. Its roof slanted, patched with different timbers. Doors wide but worn. Inside smelled of hay and horses. Light filtered through cracks, painting golden lines across the dust. She lowered her head to enter. Beams shuddered but did not fall. Joran set a trough near her. Water sloshed within. "It is not much," he said, "but it will serve." She eyed it. "Do you think me cattle? Do you think I will bow my head for scraps?" His gaze did not waver. "No, I think you thirsty." Her throat burned. Pride told her to resist. Her body betrayed her. She drank. The water was cold and clean, not the stagnant filth of market cages. Each gulp eased a fire in her chest. She finished in silence, then lifted her head. He had not moved. He had not gloated. The twins darted around the edges of the barn. Darren pointed at her wings. "They're wider than the roof." Kaelin pulled him back. "Do not anger her." The dragon curled her tail close. "Your sons have no fear of death. They have seen enough of it." Joran answered quietly. His eyes flicked toward the house. For a heartbeat, the weight of loss darkened his face. Then it was gone, buried beneath calm. Days unfolded in rhythm. Dawn broke. Joran and his sons tended fields. The dragon remained near the barn, restless. She was not ordered to work, yet she watched. She saw the strain of plowing, the callous hands of a man who labored without complaint. When he asked nothing of her, she bristled. "You spent silver on me, yet you leave me idle. Do you not expect service for your purchase?" Joran wiped sweat from his brow. "I did not buy you for service." His words gnawed at her. In dragon society, every bond was transaction, worth measured by hatchlings, by lineage, by might. Yet here was a man who measured nothing, who simply continued sowing seed. The twins hovered closer each day. Darren dared to touch her tail once. She growled, smoke curling. He yelped and fled. Yet the next morning he returned with a strip of jerky in hand. "For you," he whispered, trembling. She sniffed and turned away. Still he left it. Kaelin watched from a safer distance. His questions whispered in the dark, where he thought no one heard. Does she dream? Does she miss her kin? She heard every word. She did not answer. Storm clouds came one evening. Wind bent the fields. Rain pounded against the house. Lightning split the sky. The barn shook. Roof beams groaned. The twins cried out when a sheet of metal tore free, exposing the hay to rain. Without thinking, she spread her wings. Bronze sails stretched wide, shielding the barn, shielding the boys who huddled against her leg. Wind battered her. Rain hammered down. She stood unyielding. Joran emerged with lantern in hand. He saw her form blotting out the storm, wings forming a wall. His son safe beneath her. His face did not show surprise, only a slow nod. When the storm passed, she folded her wings. Her chest heaved. Her legs trembled. She told herself it was instinct, nothing more. Yet the boys clung to her, laughing in relief. Their small hands pressed against her scales. She did not shake them off. Later, by the fire, Joran spoke to her. His voice was quiet, meant for her ears alone. "Loss does not make you less. My wife died bringing them into the world. Many said it made me weak, unfit. Yet here we are, still standing, still raising them, still living." The dragon listened, silent. No dragon had ever spoken of weakness without shame. No dragon had ever admitted grief so plainly. "You are not useless," he said. "You are more than what others claim you cannot be." Her golden eyes reflected the firelight. For the first time she lowered her head, not in submission but in thought. His words dug deep, striking places even her pride could not shield. The twins drifted to sleep against her flank. She did not move to dislodge them. She felt their warmth, their breathing, fragile lives that trusted her with their safety. Night deepened. The storm's echoes faded. In the silence, she understood something she had long denied. Perhaps worth was not bound to the eggs she could never lay. Perhaps it was bound to the bonds she chose to forge. And for the first time since exile, she wondered if this place, this farm of soil and sweat, might one day feel like home. Whispers spread quickly across the valley. Neighbors noticed a shadow of bronze wings circling above the farm. Merchants passing on the road slowed their wagons to gawk. Some muttered that Joran had lost his wits. Others claimed he had struck a bargain with dark forces. No one believed the dragon would stay with a man without price or chain. At the market, men leaned across ale-stained tables and spoke of it with smirks. "The farmer wastes coin on a barren beast," one said. Another laughed. Better he had bought a mule. At least a mule plows. Their words carried, sharp enough to reach Joran's ears, though he gave no answer. He loaded his grain in silence, his sons beside him, the dragon waiting at the edge of the road where none dared step close. The dragon felt the stares. She heard the laughter. Rage smoldered in her chest. In her world, scorn was answered with fire. Here Joran bore it like rain against stone. It unsettled her. She could not decide if his silence was strength or weakness. That night, she spoke while the twin slept against her side. Her voice was low, her eyes fixed on the moon. "They despise me. They despise you for keeping me. Why endure it?" Joran stirred the embers with an iron rod. Sparks rose. His face remained calm. "Because their opinion is wind. It howls, then passes. What matters is here." He gestured to his sleeping sons. "What matters is what we choose to keep." His simplicity disarmed her more than eloquence could have. She turned her gaze away, yet the question lingered within. Could worth truly be chosen, not given by others? The days grew heavy with heat. Fields demanded water. The twins ran wild, chasing dragonflies through tall grass. The dragon trailed them at times, watching their games with wary amusement. They treated her not as a beast nor a queen, but something in between. Kaelin shy yet persistent in questions. Darren bold enough to dare her patience daily. One evening, Joran caught her watching them. His voice was quiet. "They see you as family." Her head snapped toward him. "Family I cannot be. Not to humans. Not to anyone." "You already are," he said simply, and walked away to tend his tools. The words gnawed at her in secret. When merchants came offering silver for her, she stood behind the barn and listened. They promised Joran riches, more than his farm could yield in years. They mocked her openly, speaking as though she were deaf. "Sell her. She drains your land. She brings only trouble. No hatchlings, no heirs. A dead end." Joran wiped his hands on his coat and shook his head. "She is not for sale." They pressed him, voices rising with greed. Still he refused. The dragon felt heat ripple across her throat. She longed to step forward, to show them her fire, but she did not. Not yet. That night she curled within the barn, restless. She thought of flight. She thought of leaving to spare him their scorn. She had wandered before. She could wander again. No one chained her here. But when the twins crept into the barn, clutching blankets, whispering that the wind howled too loud for sleep, she froze. They huddled against her side without asking. Their warmth spread through her scales. In that moment, she realized she no longer wished to leave. The storm passed. She stayed. The raid came when moonlight spilled silver across the fields. Shadows moved at the edges. Men slipped through fences. Their blades glinted. Their whispers carried greed. Dragon traders, hardened and cruel, come to claim what they believed a fool had wasted. Joran woke first. The dog's growl roused him. He stepped from a house with a lantern, his sons still asleep inside. He saw the shapes moving between rows of wheat. He did not shout. He did not call for help. He lifted his old spear, gripped steady, and walked forward. The dragon stirred in the barn. She smelled iron. She heard feet on soil. She rose, chains rattling faintly where they still bound her legs, though she could have broken them at any moment. The raiders stepped into view, smirks on their faces. "Out of the way, farmer," one hissed. "You cannot keep her. She belongs to those who can use her." She belongs to no one, Joran answered. Laughter echoed. You think kindness makes her yours. She will turn on you. Better we take her before she burns your house with your sons inside. Blades flashed. They surged. Joran braced a spear. His stance was not that of a soldier, but a man who would not yield. He fought with grit, striking and shoving, though they outnumbered him 3-1. A cut opened across his arm. Another blow knocked the lantern aside. Darkness swallowed the yard. The dragon burst in the barn with a roar that shook the earth. Her chains snapped like twigs. Fire lanced from her jaws, searing the night. Raiders scattered, their cries torn from them as heat scorched the air. She struck with tail and claw, fury unleashed. One raider lunged at Joran's back. She seized him in her jaws and hurled him across the field. Another raised a bow. Flames consumed him before the string loosed. Through the chaos, she saw the twins at the doorway, fear wide in their eyes. She planted herself between them and the attackers. No blade would pass her. No hand would touch them. The raiders cursed and fled, dragging their wounded. Smoke hung heavy. The ground smoldered where a fire had kissed it. Breathing hard, she turned. Joran leaned on his spear, blood dripping from his arm, eyes steady on her. He did not flinch at her flames. He did not cower before her sighs. You fought, she said, voice trembling with something beyond rage. I will always fight for them, he answered. And now I see you will too. The twins ran to him, clinging to his legs, then darted to her, pressing their small hands against her scales. No fear, only gratitude. For the first time since her exile, she felt not scorn, not pity, but belonging. She lifted her head high, smoke curling into the stars. She had not fought for pride. She had not fought for lineage. She had fought for them. And in their eyes, she was no barren husk. She was protector. She was family. The farm bore the scars of battle. Fences splintered. Earth blackened where fire had scorched. The barn sagged with holes where arrows had pierced its roof. Smoke lingered faint in the air, though the raiders had fled hours before. Yet within those scars lay survival. The house still stood. The field still stretched. The family still breathed. The dragon crouched near the porch, her scales streaked with soot, one wing torn where a blade had struck. Pain pulsed through her body, but she held her head high. Pride did not allow weakness before men. But when the twins came forward with strips of cloth and bowls of water, she lowered herself without a word. Their small hands worked clumsily, dabbing at her wounds. They whispered comfort as though to a frightened animal, though it was they who had been saved. She felt their touch and did not recoil. No healer of her kind had tended her so gently. No kin had looked at her with such simple devotion. Joran sat on the steps, his arm bound in linen. His face carried exhaustion but not defeat. His eyes moved between his sons and the dragon. Quietly he spoke. You stood for them. You stood for all of us. She turned her gaze on him, golden eyes reflecting firelight. I did not choose to. I could not stand aside. Then it was choice, he said, steady as stone. And that is what makes it worth more than any chain. The words pressed deep. She thought of the life she had known, worth measured in fertility, in eggs, in bloodlines. She had been cast out because her body had failed that measure. Yet here stood a man who measured her by her will, not by what she could not give. Days followed in weary repair. Joran mended fences with one arm. The twins carried wood, laughing when it toppled from their shoulders. The dragon hauled timbers, her claws sinking deep into soil, her strength bending what no human could lift. Together they restored what had been broken. Together they rebuilt. The neighbors came, drawn by rumor. At first they gathered at the edge of the road, watching from afar. Some expected to see ruin. Others expected bones. Instead, they saw a man and his sons working beside a dragon, as though it were ordinary. The whispers shifted. Curiosity grew. One evening, an elder from the village approached. His voice carried doubt. She is barren. She cannot bring heirs. She cannot bring wealth. What future is there with her on your land? Joran answered with calm certainty. She brings strength. She brings protection. She brings choice. That is future enough. The elder frowned but found no ground to argue. The dragon stood behind Joran, her shadow long against the fields, her eyes fierce. She had no need to speak. His words bound her stronger than chains. That night by the fire, she spoke quietly. Your people will never accept me. They will always see what I lack. They will see what you give, Joran replied. In time. And if not, his eyes softened, then we will not need them. Her chest ached with feelings she had not known since her youth. Not pride, not hunger. Something gentler. Something she feared to name. The twins grew bold beneath her wings. They rolled her back when she allowed, their laughter soaring as she carried them across fields. They clung to her horns, fearless, as she swept low over rivers and climbed into the blue. Their joy filled her with fierce protectiveness. She who had been cast out for her barrenness now felt the weight of family in a way her kin had never given. Not born of her flesh, but bound by her heart. And with every day she wondered if perhaps humanity had discovered a truth dragons had forgotten. That blood alone did not define family. Choice did, but peace did not last. The raiders had fled once, but word spread quickly. A barren dragon kept safe among humans. A farmer bold enough to defy them. Wealth and vengeance stirred in the hearts of men who profited on flesh and fire. They returned not in twos and threes, but in a horde. Horses thundered across the plain. Torches flared against night. Steel gleamed beneath the moon. The twins cried out as the ground shook. Joran stood at the gate, spear in hand, though his wound still ached. His jaw set like stone. The dragon spread her wings, fire already building in her chest. She turned to him. You cannot face them alone. You will die. His answer was simple. Then I will die standing. She roared, the sound splitting the dark. Flame poured across the fields, searing the first wave of riders. Horses screamed. Men toppled, yet more surged behind, arrows hissing through the air. One struck her flank. Pain flared, but she fought on. Joran shouted orders to his sons. To the barn. Stay low. Do not leave her side. They obeyed, though fear widened their eyes. Steel clashed against claw. Fire consumed wood and flesh alike. Raiders pressed hard, their numbers many. Yet the dragon fought with fury beyond bloodline, her body a wall between the attackers and the farmhouse. She struck down those who dared come near the boys. She burned the fields rather than see them taken. In the heart of battle, she saw Joran fall to his knees, spear knocked aside. A raider raised his blade above him. She hurled herself forward, fire exploding for her throat. The man consumed in an instant. Joran rose, coughing, eyes fierce with gratitude unspoken. The tide turned. Raiders broke beneath fire and steel. They fled into night, their screams fading across the hills. Silence settled heavy. Smoke drifted upward, lit by the glow of burning fields. The dragon staggered, her body torn with wounds, her breath ragged. The twins ran to her, tears streaking their faces, clinging to her talons. Joran placed a hand against her scales, steady despite his own blood. You saved us, he said. She lowered her head until her snout touched the earth. No, we saved each other. And in that truth she felt change she had carried since exile fall away. She was no longer defined by what she lacked. She was defined by what she chose. She had chosen them, and they had chosen her. When dawn came, the villagers gathered. They saw scorched earth. They saw raiders slain. They saw a farmer, his sons, and a dragon standing together against what should have broken them. And in that sight something shifted. No longer mockery. No longer scorn. A quiet respect grew. The dragon spread her wings wide, the sun catching bronze and blazing light. The twins climbed upon her back, laughter breaking through smoke and ash. Joran stood beside her, weary yet unyielding, a man who had fought not with chains but with choice. The elder spoke at last. Perhaps humans tame with love. Perhaps that is the greater power. The dragon lifted into the sky, the boys clinging to her horns, their voices carrying over the fields. She felt the wind rush through her wings, felt freedom not as exile but as belonging. She was not barren. She was not broken. She was theirs, and they were hers. And as the farmhouse shrank below, as the land spread vast and endless, she realized her story had never ended. It had only just begun.